Ever hear of a motorcycle club called the Outlaws? You probably have an image in mind,
Yeah.
but here's something wild. They're actually the oldest outlaw biker club in the world.
That's right, and active in 43 countries today.
43. See, that reach alone tells you there's more to the story, so let's really dig into that.
Absolutely. The name, it definitely rings a bell for a lot of people, maybe
Wow.
brings up certain, visuals,
Right.
but that longevity, that global footprint, it points to something, well, deeply established, a really complex history.
Exactly. So for this deep dive, we've gathered a bunch of info trying to get a real handle on the Outlaws Motorcycle Club. We're going to look at, where they came from, how they got so big.
Their structure, their insignia, what the patches actually mean.
Yeah, and we'll touch on the allegations too, because you kind of have to.
Mm-hmm.
Think of this as like your fast track to getting properly informed about a group that's, well, pretty significant whether you realize it or not. Might have a few aha moments here.
Yeah, our goal is pretty simple, really. Just look at the info we have, pull out the key stuff,
Mm.
and give you a solid picture of the Outlaws MC. Understand what makes them tick, how they've lasted so long.
Okay, let's do it. So beginnings, where did it all start? They didn't just like appear, right?
No, no, the sources point back to 1935, McCook, Illinois. It's a Chicago suburb.
1935, wow.
Yeah, and the place, Matilda's Bar, right there on Old Route 66.
Route 66. And who started it?
Well, what's interesting is it was reportedly guys who worked at the Electromotive Company.
So like regular working Joes.
Seems like it initially, not exactly the image you might have now. The founder's name that comes up is John Davis.
John Davis, okay. And they were the McCook Outlaws MC back
That's
then.
the original name, yeah. McCook Outlaws.
Got it. Then World War II happened, presumably put things on hold.
It did, yeah. Like a lot of things. But
Sure.
they didn't just fade away, they reformed afterwards.
Still going.
Oh, yeah. They were even at that first big post-war bike rally in Chicago, May 46.
Really. Straight back into it. Show some staying power right there.
Definitely. And that post-war era, that was huge for bike culture generally. The Outlaws being there early on, it really cements their place.
So the 50s roll around, what happens then?
Well, they start looking beyond just McCook, recruiting from around Chicago more broadly.
Expanding their turf.
Exactly, and that leads to a name change. Chicago Outlaws MC, and they set up their HQ on the south side.
Okay, so getting more organized, more ambitious maybe.
Seems that way. And then the 60s, that was a massive period for growth.
How so?
We see these key mergers happening in 64. They absorbed the Cult Biker Club from New York,
Okay.
the Gypsy Outlaws from Milwaukee, and the Gypsy Raiders out of Louisville.
Wow, okay. Patching over other clubs, that's a serious move.
Huge move. It basically made them the biggest one-percenter club east of the Mississippi.
The biggest east of the Mississippi.
Yeah, and second only to the Hells Angels in the whole U.S. at that point.
That's a massive leap.
Mhm.
From a suburban bar to that.
It really is, and it feels, strategic, not just random growth.
Right.
And it all kind of formalizes on January 1st, 1965. They incorporate as the American Outlaws Association, the AOA.
AOA, okay, so making it official. A
Mm.
proper organization.
Pretty much, no longer just a loose collection of writers.
And the expansion kept going.
Yep. July 67, they move into Florida. They patched over the Iron Cross Club down in West Palm Beach.
So absorbing clubs, claiming territory, building an empire almost.
You could see it that way, yeah.
Yeah.
Actively building a network.
Now, culturally, what was going on around them? I know there's that famous book.
The Bike Riders.
Right.
Danny Lyon's book from 67.
Yeah. He actually joined them, didn't he?
He did. Spent 4 years with the Chicago chapter in the 60s. Became a member. His goal was just to document the life, the American bike rider.
It gives such a unique perspective, an inside look during that really formative time. And the book was popular, right? People were fascinated.
Oh, absolutely. It offered this glimpse into a world most people never saw. But the sources also hint it wasn't all smooth sailing internally back then.
Oh, like what?
Well, there's talk of this feud, pretty serious apparently, between the guys who are more into beer and the guys more into pot.
Seriously, beer versus pot.
Sounds kind of trivial maybe, but reportedly it got violent. There are accounts saying it led to a shootout where the founder, John Davis, was actually killed.
Wow. Okay, so not just friendly disagreements, real dangerous tension under the surface.
Yeah, it's a stark reminder. Even early on, there were volatile elements.
Which kind of leads us into maybe their most famous conflict. The rivalry with the Hells Angels. That's legendary and not in a good way, right?
Yeah, definitely not. It's been long, bloody, and deeply ingrained. The sources usually point to April 1974 as the real flashpoint.
What happened then?
3 Hells Angels were murdered by outlaws down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
3. Why?
It was apparently retaliation for an earlier incident where an outlaw member got beaten up badly, supposedly by Angels in New York.
So, direct revenge. That really kicked things off then.
Seems like it ignited the fuse, yeah. And the Angels didn't just let it go. Later that same year, 74, they reportedly declared war in Cleveland.
Declared war.
Okay.
That sounds final. No turning back.
Pretty much. And the sad reality is that war has cost a lot of lives on both sides over the decades since. It's a really dark chapter for both clubs.
Yeah, it's hard to wrap your head around that level of ongoing violence. But even with that intense rivalry simmering, the Outlaws kept growing, went international, right?
We did. Big step in 1977, several Canadian chapters of another club, Satan's Choice MC.
Jason's Choice. Okay.
They decided to patch over,
Yeah.
became Outlaws chapters. That was their first move outside the U.S.
Canada first, and then
And Europe in the 90s, France in 93, Australia 94, Norway 95.
France, Australia, Norway. They were really spreading out. Amazing for a club starting in McCook, Illinois.
It really is. And they kept going. Europe saw more chapters pop up.
Anywhere else surprising?
Yeah, actually. November 2006, they became the first big Outlaw MC to open a chapter in the Far East, Okinawa City.
Okinawa. Wow. That shows some serious strategic planning, doesn't it? A truly global reach.
Definitely deliberate, far-reaching.
Okay, so we've got this global footprint, this long, sometimes violent history, the big rivalry.
Yeah.
Let's talk about their look, the insignia, their colors. That's going to be huge for them.
Oh, absolutely central to their identity. And the design itself has evolved quite a bit.
What did it start as?
Originally, it was hand-painted, a motorcycle seen head-on inside a wing circle. Pretty standard early biker art, you know?
Yeah, I can picture that. Classic vibe.
Mm-hmm.
But it changed.
It did. 1950, they swapped the motorcycle for a small skull, and they started using that Old English lettering for the name.
Okay, the skull appears, getting a bit edgier.
Right. And this was either embroidered on black shirts or painted onto leather jackets.
And then came the movie Influence, right? The wild one.
Exactly. Marlon Brando, the Black Rebel Motorcycle Club. That movie hit big. So in 54, inspired by that, the Outlaws added crossed pistons behind the skull.
The skull and pistons. That's iconic.
Very. And they put it on these black Western shirts with white piping. Really distinctive look.
And that logo, the skull and pistons, they call it Charlie.
Yeah, Charlie. And even Charlie got an update in 59, made it bigger, more detailed.
And it's trademark now, Charlie.
It is, yeah. Registered trademark. Shows how much they value that specific image, that branding.
Definitely. What about other patches? I know the 1%er patches.
Hugely significant. They started wearing that diamond-shaped 1%er patch in 63.
Okay.
They were actually the first club east of the Mississippi to adopt it. California clubs had started using it a bit earlier, around 1960.
And what does 1% really signify?
It's that statement, right?
Yeah.
That they're the 1% of motorcyclists who live outside the law, outside societal norms, as opposed to the 99% who are law-abiding citizens. It's embracing the outlaw label.
Wearing it proudly. Got it. And after they formed the AOA in 65, more patches.
Yep. They added the AOA patch. It's got an upraised middle finger inside a rounded triangle.
Subtle.
Not exactly. It was apparently meant as a direct parody of the American Motorcyclist Association, the AMA logo, another jab at the mainstream.
Always pushing back.
Yeah.
And officers have specific patches too.
Yeah, indicating rank, president, VP, sergeant at arms, that sort of thing.
Then there's the SS patch.
Oh.
Twin lightning bolts. That sounds pretty heavy.
It does. The information available suggests that patch is, well, it's allegedly awarded for committing serious violence for the club. Murder, attempted murder, bombing.
Wow. Okay. That definitely carries some dark weight, especially with the historical Nazi connotations of those symbols.
It's a very stark, very disturbing symbol, yeah. Connects to the most violent accusations against them.
And overall, their whole look seems to lean into that image, doesn't it?
Right.
Black and white colors.
Right. The support black and white slogan, they use Totenkopf imagery too, the German skull and crossbones.
And acronyms like SILO.
Support your local outlaws.
Yeah.
It all builds this very specific, very intentional identity.
An identity reinforced by their mottos, I bet.
Absolutely. Their main motto, adopted back in 69, is pretty blunt. God forgives, outlaws don't.
God forgives, outlaws don't. Often shortened to GFOD, right?
GFOD, yeah. Doesn't leave much room for interpretation, does it?
Not really.
Yeah.
It's a clear tone. And they have specific sayings aimed at the Hells Angels, too.
Oh, yeah. There's adios.
Adios.
Yeah.
Like goodbye,
Well, yeah, but it's also an acronym. Angels die in outlaw states.
Oof. Okay, that's pointed.
Very. And even more direct is AHMD.
Which stands for?
All Hell's Angels must die.
Jeez. They really don't mince words about the rivalry.
Not at all. And another saying you hear associated with them is snitches are a dying breed, reinforces that code of silence.
Right. Don't talk to outsiders, especially not law enforcement.
Yeah.
It paints a picture, doesn't it? A very specific, maybe intimidating one. So, who gets to join this club? What are the requirements?
Okay, eligibility. It's pretty specific. You've got to be male, over 21.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to own an American-made motorcycle, 750cc engine or bigger.
American-made. So, Harleys, Indians.
Primarily, yeah. Harley-Davidson Indian, Victory in the U.S. and Canada, that American iron. It can be a bit looser elsewhere. Sometimes chopper-style bikes from other countries are allowed.
Okay, so the right bike is step one.
Yeah.
But it's more than just a bike, right?
Oh, much more. There are basically 5 big things they look at.
Like what?
Okay, 1, do you actually own and ride a Harley? 2, are you competent with mechanics? Can you handle your bike?
Makes sense.
3, does your lifestyle fit the whole biker subculture? Do you treat other righteous bikers like brothers?
Right, the brotherhood aspect.
4, perceived masculinity, that's mentioned. And 5, have you rejected mainstream worldly values in favor of the club's way of life?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's thorough. It's not just showing up for rides.
Not at all. It's a whole lifestyle assessment.
Yeah. So how does someone go from wanting in to actually wearing the full patch? What's the process?
It's a step-by-step thing. First, you need a current member to sponsor you. Then you become a hang-around.
A hang-around. What does that involve?
Basically assisting the chapter, helping out, being around, letting them get to know you. If that goes well, you might get invited to be a prospect.
Okay, prospect, next level up.
Right. And after more time proving yourself, you could become probationary or probate.
Probate. And you wear something different then.
Yeah, during that time, could be months. You wear a probationary outlaws patch. Shows you're still being tested, evaluated.
Like an apprentice almost.
Yeah.
Got it. And the final step, full membership.
That requires a unanimous vote from the entire chapter. Every single member has to say yes.
Unanimous. Wow, no room for doubt.
None. Only then do you get to wear the felt colors, the vest with all the patches, and attend the weekly church meetings.
Church meetings, that term keeps coming up. And those colors, the vest, clearly a huge deal.
Absolutely massive. You've got the main Charlie logo on the back, then the rockers above and below it showing the chapter and the club name.
Uh-huh.
And interestingly, members actually have to buy those rocker patches from the international president.
Buy them. Okay. And strict rules about wearing them.
Very strict. Only on leather or black denim. No blue denim allowed.
I like denim only. Okay.
And wives or girlfriends, they can't wear the official stuff. Sometimes old ladies, as they're called, might wear a property of the Outlaws patch.
Right. It's a very defined visual code. And the colors themselves, they need protecting.
Fiercely. Members are told to guard them. There are rules like nothing with the club logo should ever touch the floor.
Wow. Okay. Respect for the symbol. Are there dues? Money involved?
Oh, yeah. Annual dues, reportedly around $1,200 a year.
$1,200. That's a commitment.
It is. Plus, you're expected to show up. Local meetings, regional events, national runs. It's not casual.
So the weekly church meetings, the runs, which are like organized rides and parties, it's a whole life.
Definitely immersive. And the dues money, it covers chapter costs, but also significantly legal assistance.
Legal help, given the allegations, I imagine that's important.
Probably essential. And get this. All members, except the chapter presidents, apparently have to take turns doing 24-hour armed guard duty at the clubhouse.
Armed guard duty. Seriously.
That's what the sources indicate. Really highlights a defensive, maybe even siege mentality.
Yeah, no kidding. And there are fines for breaking rules.
Yep. Like a $300 fine is mentioned for breaches. Keeps people in line.
Strong internal discipline. And loyalty seems key, like attending funerals.
Absolutely. Attendance at funerals for fellow members is expected, often instructed.
Mm-hmm.
And one other point, members apparently transfer between chapters more often than in some other big clubs.
Interesting. More fluidity. And finally, that code of silence again.
Yeah. The strict no-comment policy about club business with any non-members, secrecy is paramount.
Loyalty, secrecy, commitment.
Got it.
What about tattoos?
Mm-hmm.
Big part of biker culture, right? Must be significant for outlaws, too.
Huge. Tattoos are like a permanent record of your standing. After your first year as a full member, you're eligible for the club emblem tattoo, maybe GFOD.
Okay, after a year.
Then, after 5 years, you might be allowed to get your full back piece done, a replica of your colors tattooed right on your back.
Wow, the whole vest design? That's serious dedication.
It is. Other tattoos might show your chapter, things like that.
And then there are the darker ones we mentioned, the lightning bolts.
Right. Again, the sources allege that the double sig rune, the Nazi SS-style bolts, are tattooed on members who've killed or attempted to kill for the club.
A permanent mark of extreme violence, allegedly.
Yeah.
Very chilling.
Very. And there's another category. Guys who do prison time for the club, they're called lounge lizards.
Lounge lizard.
Yeah. The club supports them financially while they're inside. When they get out, they earn an LL tattoo.
An LL tattoo marks them as having done time for the cause.
Exactly. And that AAMD tattoo, the anti-Hells Angels one, that's pretty common too.
So the ink tells a story. Loyalty, time served, maybe even violence. What if someone wants out? Can you just leave?
It's not usually that simple. You can leave in bad standing, meaning you messed up somehow, broke rules, maybe became an enemy.
Okay, that sounds bad.
Or you can leave in good standing, which is more like an amicable split. Sometimes longtime members might retire.
Retirement is an option.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Retired members might get to wear a special retirement-style shirt. But apparently some leaders have actually banned retirement at times.
Banned retirement, as in it's a lifelong commitment, period.
Seems to be the message in some cases. Once an outlaw, always an outlaw. Really drives home the intensity of it.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, let's shift to structure. How does this whole global network actually function? How is it governed?
Well, it starts at the chapter level. Each
Yeah.
chapter elects its own officers.
Like who?
Usually a president, vice president, treasurer, and a sergeant-at-arms. The sergeant is often the enforcer, keeping discipline.
Got it. Elected officers.
And there are established rules for elections, for running meetings, for discipline. It's organized. And we mentioned the scale, 441 chapters, 43 countries across Asia, Europe, and North America. That's a lot to manage.
Huge. And each chapter has its own clubhouse. Not just meeting in bars anymore.
Oh, no. Dedicated clubhouses. And they're often pretty fortified. Think concrete walls, steel doors, razor wire, guard dogs, cameras.
Like compounds?
Pretty much. They use them for the church meetings, but also for parties, social stuff, secure bases of operation.
Okay, so how does the chain of command work above the chapter level?
Chapter presidents report up to regional presidents. These regions cover larger areas, and they're often designated by colors, like the black region or the red region.
Color-coded regions. Okay.
Then the regional presidents report to the international president. That's the top spot for the entire club globally.
And these positions, regional, international, they're elected too.
Yes, officers at all levels are elected by the members.
Interesting. And law enforcement talks about an internal enforcement squad. The SS again.
Yeah, that term comes up in law enforcement reports, suggesting an internal group responsible for enforcing rules, maybe handling internal security and discipline violently if needed.
So a clear hierarchy. Within the U.S., you mentioned 10 regions.
10 color-coded regions, yeah. Each covering certain states, each with a designated HQ city.
And the overall HQ, the international one, where has that typically been?
Historically, often somewhere in the Midwest. But the Southside Chicago chapter, that's considered the mother chapter, the mothership, designated back in '64.
The original home base.
Right. But the actual seat of the international presidency has moved around. It was in Detroit when Harry Taco Bowman was president.
Taco Bowman, I've heard that name. Infamous.
Very. Then it moved to Tampa under James Big Frank Wheeler, then later Milwaukee under Jack Rosca.
So it follows the leader to some extent. What about now? Who's supposedly in charge internationally?
Well, according to some legal documents from April 2021, the alleged current international president is a guy named John Ehrman.
John Ehrman. And what else is known about him?
The documents also suggested he's the general manager of a gentleman's club up in Cheektowaga, New York.
A gentleman's club manager.
Uh-huh.
That's
Yeah.
unexpected. But it's alleged, not confirmed by the club.
Exactly. The Outlaws aren't exactly issuing press releases about their leadership structure.
Right. Okay. Now, they don't operate entirely alone, do they? These support clubs. What's that about?
Yeah, support clubs are basically smaller, local MCs that are allied with and operate under the influence of a nearby Outlaws chapter.
Like satellite clubs.
Kind of. A major Outlaws chapter might have, say, 1 to 5 support clubs associated with it.
And what do these support clubs do? What's the relationship?
Their members can often attend Outlaws events. They wear support patches showing their allegiance. In return, they're expected to help out, do tasks, maybe even guard duty sometimes for the main club.
Uh-huh.
Now, law enforcement sees this differently. They often allege the Outlaws use these support clubs for, let's say, frontline work.
Like what kind of work?
Drug distribution, maybe carrying out violence against rivals, essentially acting as a buffer to insulate the main Outlaws members from direct involvement and legal risk.
A layer of plausible deniability, perhaps.
That's often the suggestion, yeah.
Is there one main support club? Or many different ones?
They do have an official primary international support club, the Black Pistons Motorcycle Club. They have chapters globally, too.
Black Pistons MC?
Okay. But there are lots of others, too, more local or regional ones, like the Undertaker's MC in Kentucky or the Chosen Few MC up in Canada and New York.
Got it. And here's something interesting. The Outlaws are known as a white club, right? But the support clubs.
Yeah, that's a nuance. While the Outlaws themselves are reportedly white only, some of their support clubs aren't. They've been known to have alliances with African-American clubs, like the Outcast MC, as support groups.
Huh. So practical alliances sometimes override racial lines, it seems.
It appears so. And in Norway, they even have something called the Black and White Crew, which is described as street crew. Members don't even need to own bikes.
A street crew support group. Interesting variation. Okay, we've touched on it throughout, but let's directly address the criminal allegations. Law enforcement sees them as a major gang, right?
Absolutely. They're consistently ranked by law enforcement worldwide as one of the big four outlaw motorcycle gangs, alongside the Hells Angels, Pagans, and Banditos.
And officially designated as?
An organized crime syndicate. That designation comes from agencies like the U.S. Department of Justice, Canada's Criminal Intelligence Service, Europol, pretty much major law enforcement bodies.
Organized crime. And the specific allegations usually involved?
A wide range. Drug trafficking is a big one, especially meth production and distribution.
Oh.
Also extortion, money laundering, prostitution rings, weapons trafficking, and of course, violence against rivals.
That's a heavy list. Far cry from just guys riding bikes.
Yeah.
How do the Outlaws respond to all this?
They consistently and very strongly deny being a criminal organization.
What's their counter-narrative?
They frame themselves as motorcycle enthusiasts, brothers sharing a non-conventional lifestyle. They argue the government exaggerates, unfairly targets them, and labels everyone a criminal just for being a member.
The few bad apples argument.
Essentially, yes. Or that the lifestyle itself is being criminalized. Their official website has statements basically saying membership alone doesn't make you a criminal.
And that saying they use.
Outlaws we are, IO we're not.
Referencing the anti-racketeering law.
Yeah.
A direct pushback against the organized crime label.
Exactly. It's that core conflict. Are they a brotherhood being persecuted or a criminal enterprise hiding behind leather and chrome?
The ultimate question, really. It sets up this stark contrast in perceptions.
Definitely. And it brings up bigger questions about how society views groups that operate on the fringes.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive on the Outlaws MC. What are the big takeaways for you?
Well, a few things really stand out. First, just their sheer history. Oldest outlaw club, global reach. That's remarkable in itself.
Yeah, the longevity is undeniable.
Then there's that intense, decades-long rivalry with the Hells Angels. It's shaped so much of their story.
The violence is a recurring theme.
And the internal stuff, the detailed structure, the really strict rules for membership, the process to get in, the huge significance of the colors, it's incredibly regimented.
More organized than many might think.
Much more. And finally, you have that core conflict. The serious criminal allegations from law enforcement versus the club's adamant denial and portrayal of themselves as just enthusiasts living differently.
Right. Two completely opposing views. And important to stress, this is all based on the publicly available information we could find.
Crucial point. We're synthesizing what's out there.
It definitely paints a picture of a group that's complex, deeply rooted, and, well, controversial. Clearly way more than just a weekend riding club.
No doubt about that.
So here's something to think about as we finish. When you look at a group like the Outlaws, with this incredibly long history, this global network, operating so visibly yet so far outside the mainstream, constantly under scrutiny, what does that really tell us about our society?
Or maybe consider this, with all those detailed rules, the structure, the international presence, for many members, is that outlaw label primarily about rejecting societal norms and embracing a certain identity rather than just, active law-breaking? Where's the line?
Definitely gives you a lot to mull over, something to encourage you, the listener, to maybe look into more yourself and form your own conclusions based on the available info.